Using the y equals mx plus b form of an equation is the easiest and quickest way to plot any linear equation. The steps are always the same. Begin by placing the y-intercept on the y-axis. Remember, the y-intercept is found in the y equals plus b form of an equation right here at the b. The b in the y equals mx plus b form is the y-intercept. Find each subsequent point by using the rise over run of the slope as your guide to get to subsequent points from the y-intercept. And remember, in the y equals mx plus b form, the slope, rise over run, is the m in that equation. So it's all just sitting right there for you to use. Repeat these steps 3 or 4 times for accuracy. Don't just stop with 2 points. Have at least 3 to 4 points on your line for accuracy. That way you will know if you go off of the line you've made a mistake. Let's do an example. Let's do y equals 3/4 x minus 2. In this equation, my b is equal to -2. It's sitting right here. My slope is sitting in front of the x, and it is equal to 3/4. I also want you to note that your slope could be written as -3/4, because a negative divided by a negative is also a positive. And I indicate this because sometimes you may run out of room on your graph and need to go backwards so that you can make more points on the line. So it's helpful sometimes to write both versions of your slope in case you need to go the opposite direction. So my starting point on my graph, remember we said put a point on the y-intercept of b, so let's do that first. Our y-intercept is b equals -2, so let's find -2 on the y-axis and put a dot. Use our rise over run of our slope to find subsequent points. Our slope says that we need to rise up 3 and run 4. So I'm going to rise up 3 and go 1, 2, 3 and run 4. 1, 2, and make my next point. And I'm going to do it again to get the next point. You can see the staircase. Now look, I don't really have enough room to make another point, but I'd like to make another point. So now here is where my reverse slope comes in handy. It says to go down 3 and backwards 4. And notice how that point is still in line with the other points. So I have 4 nice points in a row, and I can draw a line. Now I don't have a straight edge on here, which I know is generally against my rules, but there's my line. Here's another example. Y equals -2/5 plus 3. In this equation, b is equal to +3, and my slope is -2/5. Now, if I want my opposite slope, I would say 2/5. Because when it divides out, ultimately the answer still needs to be negative. So one of them needs to remain negative. So, plot my first point at the y-intercept of +3. And use my slope as my guide of rise over run to get to my next point. So I'm going to use my slope, and I'm going to rise in the negative direction 2. So I'm going to go down 2, and I'm going to go to the right 5 because my 5 is positive. And I'm going to do it again. Now again, I'm out of room, so this is why I have my reverse slope, because I want to go backwards from here to get another point. So I'm going to go up 2 and back 5. And now I have enough points to draw a line. And it took me just a few seconds to graph the line. Let's do one more example. Let's say your problem is not already in y equals mx plus b form. Well, in that case, you need to put it in y equals mx plus b form, which means you need to do some rearranging and get that y all by itself. So in this case, you have 2x minus 4y equals negative 16. Your 2x needs to be relocated over here to right after the equal sign. So I need to subtract it from both sides. And I'm going to be left with negative 4x equals negative 2x minus 16. Now I could have put negative 16 minus 2x, but there'd have been no point to that because I want it in y equals mx plus b form. And that means I want my x term immediately following the equal sign. Oh, I wrote an x instead of a y there, didn't I? Alright, now I need to isolate the y further, and I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. And now I have it in y equals mx plus b form, and it's ready to graph. So I'm going to start with my b of positive 4, and I have a slope of 1/2. So my starting point is going to be on a positive 4, and I'm going to go up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. And if I want to go in reverse, I would go down 1, back 2. And draw my line. So you see how quickly you can sketch a line when you have an equation in y equals mx plus b form.